Well, even people like the Santos chief executive, Kevin Gallagher, are singing from the net zero hymn sheet while saying, without mentioning coal, of course, but with his focus on gas, quote, "We need investment in new supply to support our existing energy system, as well as the decarbonisation projects that will enable an orderly transition rather than the chaos we're seeing today," unquote. Well, translated, that means we're having a bet each way. It means that these so-called decarbonisation projects, which are renewable energy, are producing chaos. And therefore, we, quote, "need investment in new supply." Like the rest of the world, that means building coal-fired power plants. That was Santos. Then the Alinta chief executive told an energy conference last week that power prices in Australia will soar by at least 35% in 2023, and he described the current energy situation as horrendous. "It is unpalatable," he said. Which brings us to the latest stupidity. I've said over and over again, generation of electricity only contributes 32% towards greenhouse gas emissions, if that is the problem, which I believe isn't. However, transport is 18%, and agriculture is responsible for 14%. So the emissions from transport and agriculture are 32%, about the same as for electricity generation. The attack on our agricultural sector is real. I mentioned last week the New Zealand Labor government, that's this Ardern, is talking about taxing the greenhouse gases that farm animals in New Zealand make from burping and urinating. Part of the plan to tackle, of course, climate change. So New Zealand farmers are facing a farm levy, the first in the world. New Zealand's Federated Farmers, their main lobby group, rightly said the plan would, quote, "rip the guts out of small town New Zealand," unquote, and replace farms with trees. Well, now the Albanese government plans to slash methane emissions like New Zealand by 30% by 2030, but there'd be no more animal extinctions. Isn't this typical of Labor? Walk and chew gum at the same time? As Vicky Campion wrote splendidly at the weekend, what about wild pigs or feral cats? The environmental destruction of wild pigs has been compared by scientists to millions of cars. Feral cats, which have driven 27 natives to extinction. Why are we worried about cattle emissions? As Vicky Campion rightly asked, what are the emissions of the estimated 24 million feral pigs compared to 2.4 million domestic pigs? Unquote. Well, if methane is a problem, when it's really only part of the net zero religion, how do you reduce the methane from hundreds of thousands, not of cattle, but of horses and deer and goats and camels and rabbits? They urinate as well, you know, and they break wind as well. But the Albanese government is not entirely stupid. They know they're heading for trouble. Federal Agriculture Minister Murray Watt has called for the business of reducing methane in agriculture as aspirational. That there'll be no new taxes or regulations on farmers, but rather the government will work with industry to, quote, "improve the diet of livestock to lower emissions." Diet, you see. You don't break wind if you've got the right diet, really? I wonder if any of them have ever been on a farm. No more animal extinctions. What do we collectively say? The world has gone mad. Since we're talking about urinating and breaking wind, the only appropriate comment, pardon the language, is that this is all crap. Methane-free crap, of course.